Welcome, welcome. Oh my gosh, it feels so good. Like so good to be back in this space. We are here with our first topic episode for season two. So thank you for jumping into our last episode where we reintroduced and launched officially season two of the Wisdom of Womanhood podcast. We have a really juicy, potent, maybe quite confronting and
Mm.
activating conversation today. So I am one of your co-hosts. My name is
That's me.
Showy Moon, bless you.
Thank you.
Showy Moon. And I am joined by beautiful Pip. Hey, Pip.
Hello. Hello.
That was the cutest little sneeze.
And I was like, oh, it's coming. I was like, it's coming, it's coming.
So we had a really fantastic episode in season one that was all around the difference between religion and spirituality and also the way that they integrate with one another and also within that a real acknowledging of the harm that has occurred within the space of religion utilized by certain people in history and present day for their benefit. And so we're really coming into a different avenue of the same conversation based on some big changes that have happened within our lives separately, very interestingly,
Mm.
uh, around God and around church and around worship and around our connection to our own sense of spirituality. So,
Mm.
we're going to share some of the pieces that have dropped in for both of us, which we didn't really know much about as well. So, a part of
Mm.
this will be us hearing this for the first time because we know snippets of kind of what led us into where we now sit in our own relationship with God and with Jesus. And also just break down, maybe some of the hesitations that either of us had or that people have, the celebrations, what we're gaining out of these relationships that are currently really thriving in our lives.
Mm.
So I'm going to ask Pip to expand on that and then dive into her journey over the last couple of months and kind of how she got there as well, because we both have very different backgrounds and very different stories and ways that have led us to where our paths are now, which I think is important to note.
Yeah, before I get started, I want to invite the listeners to, if it's safe to do so, just close down your eyes for a moment. And I want you to just bring up the name and the word God. And what does it feel like to you? What's the first kind of judgment you make or connections you make to the name and the word God? Just for a moment. And I want you to do the same for Jesus. When I bring that name into your consciousness, Jesus, what judgments, connections, insights do you get with that name? You can open your eyes. I wanted to do that because it just gave me shivers. Oh,
Hmm.
because it's a name and it's a word and it's from language. So many of you will have interpreted them two names very differently. An older version of me would have connected to God as a man with a beard up in the sky looking down on everything. And an old version of me would have seen Jesus as this, prophet from the Bible, from being brought up as Catholic. So now I see it as completely different. So I see God as the universe, as the Tao, as the all-knowing, just whatever you want to call it, divine source. And I see Jesus as one of us, a light worker, a healer, someone wanting to spread inspiration and just a human being. So the reason I wanted you to do that is because we all interpret it differently, and that's why like religion and spirituality do have crossovers and they do blend in because it's like we mentioned about going to church, like Showie and I have started church this year, which is bizarre that we've both started to go to church this year, like separately. I didn't even know until we spoke about it yesterday. I was like, I started church with Chris and Showie did with Michael. It's like, it's really beautiful that there's that connection there. But for a long time, going to church for me was like something I used to do with my nan to light a candle. If I'm traveling, I'd go into like cathedrals and I'd honor, the beautiful architects. Like just in the UK in May, we went to our favorite cathedrals and abbeys, and I always light a candle for my nan because she was very religious and just kind of just out of respect, really. But Chris and I wanted to start church because I want to do something different for both of us to bring in just a change into our life. I wanted to find connection and I wanted to find a community. And it's great because we take Noah. And what's really lovely is Noah loves the singing. He looks at people. He's like so intrigued. And it's just lovely to see. And when I was at church on Sunday, I had this lovely vision of his like, when he's like 3 or 4 and everyone's getting to know him. And as he gets older, he's being integrated into this community. But my background is I was brought up Catholic. So I was baptized Catholic. I had a communion. I went to Catholic schools. Religious studies was part of our, curriculum. And I remember we used to have to read Bible studies and we'd have church assemblies. And, I remember we used to sing this like hymn before we went home. And, it was just part of my upbringing. And then when I got to teenage years, we had the opportunity to get confirmed. Whereas, like, you think you pick like a God name, like a middle God name. And I didn't want to do that. So I decided not to. I guess it wasn't the cool thing to do when I was like 13, 14. But as I've grown and evolved spiritually, I realize that it doesn't matter. Like, it's what I connect to that matters. Like, it's my connection, it's my faith, it's my compassion, it's my empathy, it's my love that I want to feel that. And that's what God is to me. God to me is the all-knowing, and it's reminds me of the Tao Te Ching. The first phrase in the Tao Te Ching is the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. So basically, it's saying that it doesn't matter what you call it. It really doesn't. If it's God, universe, Tao, Showy, Pip, like it doesn't matter as long as that connection's there. Like for me, that's the strength. That's what keeps me aligned and that's what I connect to. And I think that's what we're missing in like the religion. And that's what's there's so much war around the world because of religion and because my religion's better than yours. My religion's right, yours isn't right. And it's just underneath all those layers is just love. That's what it's all about, trying to connect to love and be love and find this higher power and get back to it. And yeah, it's frustrating being in that kind of energy when we think of all the wars going on in the world, but I do believe that everything is happening in divine order. But with church, back to that church, is that when I go, I feel home. Like I feel like I'm at home. Like there's been no anxiety going in. Like, oh, it's a new environment, it's new like people. It's just been a beautiful opening and a beautiful reconnection for Chris and I. And I just feel like when I'm there, I had this first time I went, I had this beautiful moment where I was looking under a table and there was this bag and it had poppies all over it. And my nan's favorite flower was a poppy. And when she passed, we all wore poppy t-shirts for her funeral. And I just saw the poppy under the table and I thought, oh, my nan would love that I'm here, even though it's not like a church. It's still a church, but it's a different, spiritualist church. She still loved that I was here and I'm singing and doing prayers. And as I saw the bag and I looked at Chris holding Noah, behind him, there was a list of names and the bottom name was May, and that was my nan's name. I just
Mm.
thought, how weird is it with like the last seats were like here. I wouldn't have seen her name if we were sat like a different seat. And I just got a little tear came down. I was like, okay, yeah, she's here. Like she's here. And I just felt like she was just so proud that I've, taken a leap in whatever that looks like to connect back to God. And even saying the word God, I remember 2, 3, 4 years ago, I wouldn't have, I would never have said, oh, I believe in God, because I didn't want people to think, oh, well, she's this religious nut or religious Catholic, blah, blah, blah. It was like, I was so scared of the judgment. Now, we spoke about this before, Shower. I don't care. It's about what I feel when I connect to God. And that's the most important bit.
Mm. Yeah, amen to that.
Amen.
How beautiful that you had these moments of divine intervention where you got to have this confirmation of like, I'm on the right track, right? Okay, I'm on the right track. Beautiful. And I'm not alone, and
Mm,
like Nan is here and like Spirit is here and beautiful. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
mm.
What do you feel have been the biggest influences on allowing you to shift away from what you thought you knew about church or religion into what your beliefs are now?
I think one can't exist without the other. So I think it's all one. It's just one. Like it's for me, I don't make the judgments between the two. It's just how I thought church was is completely different to how I used to think. And I remember a couple of friends reached out to me after I posted I'd just started church with Chris, and a few of those friends have started back Catholic church, actually going to a Catholic church. And they were really intrigued about what a spiritualist church looks like. And, in that moment, I guess part of me thought, I wonder if they think like it's different. And it's again, they moved away from spirituality because they thought spirituality was a trend and it was, affecting them mentally. And I was like, but each person's on their own path. And no matter what church you choose to go to, I don't think it matters because underneath all of that, it is that connection. Like if I was to go to, I mean, we're going to Fiji next week for a couple of days. I could go into a church in Fiji, even though it could be a different religion. I mean, obviously there's different churches around the world, but it could be a different religion. But the fact I want to show up and connect, that's what we need in the world is that it's okay that we're actually like, I'm spiritual, which means I'm open to everything. Like I'm open to all faith and just that I'm connected to like God. And God is everywhere. God is within our fingertips. We're a part of God. We are God. And I just I wish I could see a world. I do see a world through my own mind's eye, but I wish we could see a world where have a conversation with someone and be like, I'm Muslim or I'm a Hindu or whatever religion you want to put at that title, that religion title, and you go, how beautiful. How is that for you? Instead of being like, nah, that's not right. You need to be
Mm,
this. You
mm,
should do this. And it's the same with opinions, isn't it? Like if we're all stir that's what I love about Conversations with God. So Conversations with God is a beautiful book series by Neil Donald Walsh. And he asks a question in the book to God and says, if you're all this almighty universe and you're everywhere, why haven't you shown yourself more?
mm,
And God's reply was, if I show myself in a certain way to you, it'll be different to how I show up to the next person and the next
mhm,
person and the next person. And that causes divide. Well, I saw God as da 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 da. Well, and that's the problem is that our perspectives are so different. So God said, I'm everywhere. There's no place that I'm not.
yeah.
And that's the key, I think, is that if we're trying to picture God as like it's like like I said, a man with a beard looking down, controlling everything, where it's actually not. It's we're all God, you know?
Mm. Yeah, beautiful. And I was going to mention in sharing around how I got here, Conversations with God, the book, as
Mm.
well as What God Said, which is the compilation and the 25 core messages from all of his books, that I recently read that have been one of the biggest influences on where I'm at now. Um, is there anything else around your journey so far that feels important to share or acknowledge?
I maybe just touch on really quickly that I am deciding to baptize Noah. I'm baptizing Noah Catholic, and the reasoning behind that is mostly for schools. And I've chatted to Shawi about this. But when I was talking to my mum about that, it seems to be a thing we do in the UK. Like you have like a baptism and then you have this big party and it's kind of a UK, I don't know if it's like a culture thing in the UK, I don't know, but I didn't want to get Noah baptized here at first. I wanted to go into the ocean, have this beautiful ceremony thing, like I had the mother blessing. Like I wanted to be like really spiritual and very Mother Earth. And but realistically, I was like, if I get him baptized Catholic, I can still bring that element to it if I want to. But again, it is for like, which I think is really crazy that I have to get him baptized to go to a certain school. And again, that's like bleeds over into another topic, like of how, why can't we all just attend the schools we want to? So there's that piece of it, like where I was when he was first born, and that's only 9 months ago. I was still scared of judgment, like, oh, you're getting baptized Catholic. I thought you're spiritual, that kind of that judgment started to come up. But now I'm
Mm.
like, no, I'm doing it because it's what we choose to do, and he's our son, and I'm doing it for these reasons, and it's okay. I don't need to explain myself. So I'm doing it because I want him to have that extra, element to be able to go to certain schools if we need to put him into a Catholic school, which if he's meant to go to a Catholic school, great. I grew up Catholic and I think I turned out pretty great. So,
Yeah, beautiful. And I think even just such a great reflection of the fact that 9 months ago, you were in a different place with your reflection of the
yeah,
choices you made and your attachment to people's opinions on that. So that's a really
yeah.
nice reflection piece, right? I also think within this conversation, it's really important for people to hear too that no matter where you're at in your relationship to self, to anything outside of you, that never needs to be found in a particular place. Just because Pippa and I happen to have experienced church in the last few months doesn't mean we're saying that you should. And doesn't
Yeah,
mean that we're saying it's where someone's going to find God, because that is one of the very
yeah.
many, many places. And I had multiple experiences with God before I ever stepped foot for the
Mm,
first time in a church, 100%.
yeah.
So that's really important as well. I think what we are first of all doing is being really open and honest about where we're at in our journeys, because that's what this podcast is about. And yes, it's about the conversation topics, but it's also about us showing up as two women that are being really full of integrity in the way that we show up in this space. And the other piece for it is for us to be the living evidence of how we continuously evolve in our ideas around how the fuck we got here, how we
Mm,
got here, how we move through the world, how the sunsets and the flowers and the animals and how it all exists and this magic and wonder, and that we're simply allowing that to continue to shift and change and evolve over time. And right now, as of this moment, this is where we're at. And these are our current reflections. And they
mm,
may change just as we
yeah,
have. And I think it's really important to not hold so tightly onto, well, it has to be this way because this is how it looks and this is how it's worked really well for me. And like I'm now this and this and this because of these sets of beliefs or this faith. And it's like wonderful, it got you to
mm,
here. Maybe there's some pieces that are going to continue to change and shift to get you to where you are going. So that's I really felt a desire for that to land in this conversation. Uh, I, do you know what? I've had a really interesting experience. So I did not grow up with any type of religion around me at all, like at all. Never went to
mm,
church, never had any religions. I had two amazing parents who did give me the gift of being extremely connected to the earth. So I grew up barefoot on beaches and gardens and forests and rivers, and we grew all our food from the land. And from the age of like 4 years old, maybe even younger. Our homes were powered by the sun. We had like wind turbines, and they still do. Like I was very connected to like my interpretation of Mother Earth,
yeah,
even in terms of like crystals and yeah, very grounded, connected energy within. Like we are not separate from the earth. That was a lot of like what I was exposed to growing up, which was an amazing foundation because I think it helped to ground me and also keep the magic alive and the wonder alive. Like I had wonder was such a theme
yeah.
of my childhood. And so not until a few years ago had I experienced and had quite profound reflections on this idea of there being um, like a force that was greater than the physical experience.
Mm.
And the beginning of those experiences came in many ways, through Reiki, and I'm sure I've mentioned this in other episodes, and I'll just mention it again for those of you who aren't familiar with this but might know what Reiki is. So both Pippa and I are Reiki practitioners. We've had Reiki attunements. Reiki, as the energy form that it is, only exists because a Christian theologist studied Jesus and studied
Mm.
Jesus as an energy healer and explored that and then prayed and spent 21 days fasting and meditating to try and uncover this art of hands-on healing. That is actually how this version that we have now of either Usui traditional or Karuna, that is where it came from. And I love that because that is what I always thought. So my like beliefs for like the last decade is Jesus was 100% a real person. Like
Mm.
I do not dispute that. And I don't think I've ever disputed that. I mean, he's a real person. And he could channel in energy, life force energy as a conductor of energy and help to heal people. That is what I do today as a Reiki
Yeah.
practitioner. Like, so
Yeah.
why wouldn't I believe he did it as well? And I see
Yeah.
miracles all the time, in my work, and people's lives are transformed, not because of me, but because of my openness and willingness to be open to possibility and miracles to start off
Mm.
with, but also learn the skills and create the understanding of myself as an energetic being to support other people. And so that was like an early on understanding for me. And then I had two major experiences that were quite profound. The first one happened about it was just around, I think before the first lockdowns. So what was that, like 5 years ago or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a time of great confusion and great fear. Like we've never experienced collective fear in this way in our generation and the generation before us. Like collective, everyone around the
Mm.
world is in such a deep state of fear, right? And separation. And I was having a Reiki treatment and attunement because I had been with a Reiki client and had a spirit ask me to support me in my healing. And actually, for the first time ever, and the only time ever since then, like asked for permission to actually land inside my energetic body with me. And I gave full permission, and I knew that they were there from love and light, and I saw them clearly. And from that moment on, I started speaking light language. And
Yeah.
I didn't
That's
choose to,
crazy.
and I didn't really even know what it was. And I actually was like, what even is this? So I
Mm.
asked someone who I knew spoke light language and did light language attunements to do a light language activation and a Reiki treatment with me. So for anyone that isn't familiar with light language, I'll give you my interpretation. There will be many. What I've experienced in this coming through, and I never choose for it to. It comes through with some clients, it comes through and I do it with myself. It comes through in big healing environments, just whenever it chooses to. It is similar to Reiki for me. It is an energetic activation that comes through the throat chakra, activates through language, and will transmute energy, and it can also be called like speaking in tongues, which is highly associated with the church. And so
Mm.
during this session, I left my body and I went out of my body and I didn't want to come back. And at that time, I wasn't like depressed. I wasn't, but the field was very heavy. Like the field was heavy and it felt heavy and I wanted to be where it was light. So I was like, I don't want to
Yeah.
go back. And in that space, while I was out of my body, two what I would describe as angels, my only understanding, two very like tall male like figures were side by side and they were attempting to escort me back to my body. And I was like, nah. And I was full on tantruming, like, I'm
Mm.
not going back. I don't want to go there. And then a a presence became known to me, a very powerful charged presence of love was in my field, and this presence communicated with me very calmly, very lovingly, everything is going to change more quickly than you think it's going to. Like, have faith. Everything is moving as it's meant to. It's going to be okay. You're looked after. That timeline you've got in your head of how long you think it's going to be heavy is actually moving way quicker than you think it is. We're coming back to love. There's a purpose in this. Everything's going to be okay, which gradually got me back into my body. And my experience after that was I was like, holy shit, God spoke to me. Like I really was in this place
It's like an
of
aha moment.
like just this
Mm.
whoa. So I had that experience. And then about 6 months later, I was doing a Reiki session with a very dear friend of mine. And on the table, she began speaking in the most beautiful, poetic, as in every single second line rhymed, um like poetry. It like started moving through her, not by choice. It just started moving through her, and I was sitting there and I just like was frozen, and she was speaking, and it was about light and love and how we are to exist and harmony. And again, it was kind of during this time still, and how we go about that, very practical things. And then like directly spoke to me, very specifically gave me like these guidelines for how to move forward, and these are the things I'm going to do. And it was like 5 minutes of just this talk that was coming out, and then stopped. And then like 2 minutes later, she came back and she had heard it as if it was coming through somebody else, but knew that it
Mm.
was her. And she was like, babe, I think God just spoke to us. I was like, I know. That was wild. And
Mm.
she goes, it was just like the most beautiful and profound experience. She said, I was not choosing anything I was saying. I was like, oh, I know, 100%. And so those things happened and they kind of lodged with me, right? It wasn't this drastic like pivot, but they lodged, and I just said, okay, I'm going to be open to how experiences continue to show up in my life. Now, I've also had potent and powerful experiences in different environments where I felt very feminine presence, like the presence of Isis. I've had the presence of Mother Mary. I've had the presence of Mary Magdalene, and the presence of like even like Athena energy and Aphrodite energy. Like I've had these
Yeah.
very potent experiences. Now, where I'm at now is that my belief is that they're all the same thing. Fragments of a wholeness that we are
Mm.
also fragments of.
Yeah.
There is a wholeness and there is a consciousness that is love that exists, that we are fractals of, and also these incredibly beautiful essences and deities that have been given different names in different places and different cultures. They are also part of that. All of it coexists. I do not believe that there is one. I do not believe that there is separate, and it's either you believe in the Roman gods and goddesses, or the Greek gods and goddesses, or the Indian, or
Mm.
the like. I personally, I do not believe there is separation. I believe there is all of it. All of it is truth. And so through the last 9 months, my partner and I he has been on a very profound and deep journey with God and with the church. And I'm not going to go lots into his story. He actually was interviewed and he's on a podcast, and I'll put the link somewhere and you can go and listen to it because it's quite incredible. And what then came from that is that we have this amazing friend, Ruben. He is incredible. He's been one of Michael's dear friends for a long time. Now, his dad is the pastor of Encounter Church in Auckland, and it's called Encounter for a very particular reason, because when you go to a service, you have an encounter. It is very, very profound. And so Michael's path led him to be open to exploring, like alongside Ruben, the services within this church. And then about 5 months ago, Michael was here for Easter, and I initially, because I know this has been such an important journey for him, I had worked out what churches were available for us to go to, like after we dropped the kids off, and we went to a church here in the Mount where I live, and I had a full on, like visceral contraction to it. I was like almost shaking the whole way through the service. I could like went through like moments where like I couldn't breathe, and
Hmm.
there was just so much contraction to it. A lot of what was being said, I didn't resonate with. A lot of the themes within it, I didn't resonate with. And this isn't anything against this church. Like, I think they're beautiful. It's actually an incredible community. For me, it did not feel right. Like, there were too many things that were in contradiction to my own beliefs. And honestly, it was quite challenging for our relationship because he had a great time. And him understanding where I was coming from, because, like, unlike my journey, and like I've spoken about before, I spent years uncovering the truth of what the church has done to women. Like, I really deeply, deeply dived into the absolute femicide that has happened due to the hand of people claiming control over persecution, rape, torture, and murder of women as holy.
Yeah.
And so for me to choose to step into a place of worship where I have those associations and truths that a lot of them probably don't know, because a lot of them probably haven't been given that education because it doesn't fit the narrative. Like, for me, this has been huge. It is setting aside of these things can be true. It can be true that some people in history and present day have utilized the church to harm not just women and men and children. I have had a lot of clients that have had religious trauma, which is very interesting, over the last 2 years that I have helped, like very deep religious trauma. And so that's the lens I'm coming through. So I'm one of the people that you would think it's like, I would be like, fuck that, fuck the church, fuck them all, fuck
Hmm.
religion, you know? And so it's this whole piece, right, of actually being open to experience. So I joined Michael in this church, and it was so beautiful. So beautiful, so powerful. They're doing what we do. Like, they're fucking doing like healing work, like happening as we're sitting there. The music is potent, the energy is palpable. It is just an incredible experience. The way that they've loved on Michael and loved on the community and loved on our friends has just been amazing. Like, even the wife of the pastor asked me to stand up in church on Sunday. She was like, because I know her daughter as well. And she was like, just, want to recognize that Michael's partner, Showie, is here, because Michael was speaking at church on Sunday. And she asked me to stand up. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it's a big church too. And I was like, hi. Just amazing, incredible support. And still, like, I will still have moments, to be completely honest, in services based on my own experiences and my truths that there's points of contraction over. Like, it doesn't feel true to me that God is always referred to as the masculine. That does not feel true to me. My
No.
understanding of Jesus as well is that, so my own understanding has come from my own experiences, and also I've read particular books. There's a particular book by Dolores Cannon that I recently read, which I would highly recommend, which is past life regressions with a client who in a past life was around Jesus's life.
Is it Jesus
And
and the Essenes?
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's very, very interesting, because that's my understanding and belief, is that Jesus was here to give an example of how we can live, and
Yeah.
the way that we can live, and how we can show up in service to others, in education and inquiry and understanding of astronomy and energy, and with deep love and compassion and wisdom. That's my understanding. I actually does not sit with me that he only came here to rid us of our sins. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
That's not my beliefs.
Hmm.
And then I watched Christspiracy recently, which I'd also highly recommend. It's an incredible documentary. And it goes to show the ways that the meat industry has infiltrated the churches. And it is horrific, because I also does not sit with me animal sacrifices. And there is no part of me ever that is like, I'm sorry, but why would God that created the animals say that we should then murder? Like
Yeah.
there is nothing about that that sits true with me. And so within the pieces, I think this is the piece I want to finish with in my story. And there's other pieces that have woven into it, but I am being open to the experiences that I'm having, even though I know there are some elements that do not completely reign true. And that's okay because the
Yeah.
people around me in a church service, it's not causing them any harm. They're not going about creating harm because of their beliefs. And they're
Mm.
also not telling me that I have to believe this, otherwise, there is something wrong with me. And so I'm like, this is beautiful. Okay, this is coexistence, right? This is this piece where it's not that we all have to think the same thing all the time, but can we come
Yeah.
together and sing together and
Mm.
dance together and pray together and love one another together? Then yes. And whether that's in a woman's circle, whether that's in a retreat, whether that's in a church, whether that's in like a family dinner,
It
it
doesn't
doesn't matter
matter
where it is.
environment, it's the fact that you're actually coming
Doesn't
together. Mm.
coming together, and being in prayer and love. And like I had a profound experience on Sunday where it was like my light babies. I've got these incredible light babies that will be my babies, but also they're light beings. And they were there like with Jesus and they had this powerful healing with me. And I looked at them and I said, you're just perfection. And they said to me, you are the reflection of our perfection. And it was
Mm.
Jesus and these light beings, these guides, these souls that are so pure. And they were like, and you are us,
Mm.
and it's coming back to that, like coming back to that. So I'm open to where the journey continues to take me. I have another book I'm going to be reading, another Dolores Cannon, and I think it's wisdom. Wisdom is power, right? And as long as we continue to be open to where our own traces of wisdom are taking us, then it's going to take us where it's meant to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a Conversation with God. Definitely want to read again because I read that a few years ago. But geez, in these scenes, I actually read half of it, so I think I should definitely finish
Oh
that
my
off
gosh, go
because
back.
yeah.
I blitzed
Yeah.
through that. Like this will
Yeah.
be a perfect time to go back and read it.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm feeling that call now, definitely.
Yeah. Well, especially if you only read the first half, because you haven't got to
Yep.
like, yeah, you haven't got to all the
Mm.
other stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to go back because it was a while ago.
Perfect
I
timing.
read it. Yeah, I read it doing my level two, so that was God, like 6 years ago. So yeah, I probably just need to
Yeah.
start again.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yes. Do it. Start it all again. It'll be through a different lens now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I definitely would say like conversations with God is a great place to start if someone is
Oh
open
yeah.
to, because if you are like-minded with us, been on a journey of personal development, self-discovery, you'll listen to this and be like, oh wait, these are actually all the things I already believe. This isn't
Mm.
separate, it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's it.
Mm.
Amazing.
I love that.
Any comments or questions or reflections that you have for us within this conversation? We are completely open to it. I think the one little final piece I'd love to drop in about my journey is what I struggled with at the beginning is finding my place within the space. I'm covered in tattoos. I'm divorced. I work in the space of sexuality. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I'm outspoken, opinionated. Like I'm all of the things that I would have been murdered for not that long ago
Yeah.
by the church. And it's been really beautiful for me going, do you know what? Like, I am going to fucking take my place here. I am going to claim my space in a place that would have shunned me or would have, and I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to be here because I
Yeah.
want to be here. And then in that like step forward, it's been open arms. Like it's been open arms because I've chosen to find a place somewhere that I thought I would never have a place. And that's
Yeah.
been deeply healing for me.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely. I can resonate with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Thank
Anything
you
that
for
feels,
sharing.
yeah, thanks. Anything that feels important to close on within this conversation.
I would maybe journal on what I spoke about earlier. What does God mean to you and what does Jesus mean to you? And you'll all have different experiences no matter how you were brought up or, how you're living now. But just maybe journal and just write God at the top of the page.
Mm.
Meditate on it. Meditate on what God is to you and what you feel, when you think of the word God. And if that word doesn't fit for you, use a word that does fit for you. And just, I'm sure Jesus won't mind if you call him something else. It's like the connection matters and that it's that finding what fits for you. And I think it is that like being okay with what the name is, 'cause it doesn't matter.
Like even for me, I much more deeply resonate with Yahweh and Yeshua. Like
Yeah.
definitely 100%, which was the language that
Yeah.
was used around the
Yeah.
time of Jesus Christ
Mm,
being born. So like actually those words and the essence of those lands much more
mm,
deeply and like deeply as in even that language has been alive for longer.
mm.
Before we came out with these like English translations, like
Yeah.
that was what was so deeply ingrained in people
Mm,
that really understood like Yahweh and Yeshua.
yeah.
So, you
Yeah.
know, if those feel more open or even like they have less constraint around if someone has had things like, religious trauma or contraction,
Mm.
then I would encourage you to just exploring it through that lens as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks, darlings. Woo, here we are.
Thank you. So good to be back,
Good
talking,
to be
sharing
back.
wisdom.
Mm. We love you guys. Lots and lots.
Love
You
you.
are love. We are love. See you next time.
Bye.
Mwah.